Question 1. From a practical standpoint, Maria is tasked with deploying Oracle Linux across 50 servers with identical configurations. She wants the process to be repeatable and require minimal manual input. Which approach best ensures automation and consistency in this scenario? A. Using Grub custom boot parameters for each server. B. Creating a Kickstart configuration file for unattended installations. C. Manually installing Oracle Linux with a checklist. D. Using rsync to copy an existing system's file system to new servers. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Kickstart enables fully automated, consistent installations by predefining partitioning, package selection, and post-install scripts, eliminating manual errors. Grub parameters affect boot behavior, not installation automation. Manual installs are error-prone and inconsistent. Rsync cloning lacks flexibility for hardware variations and doesn't configure system identity or networking cleanly. Question 2. Under the assumption that a newly deployed Oracle Linux server fails to boot, showing a grub prompt was the most effective immediate action to restore boot capability without reinstalling the OSer. Use grub install from rescue environment to reinstall the bootloader. B. Modify xstat to remove unused mount points. C. Rebuild the kernel using make. D. Clear the initramps cache. Answer. Correct answer, A. Explanation. A grub prompt typically indicates a missing or corrupted bootloader stage. Reinstalling grub from rescue mode reestablishes the boot chain. Editing xstab addresses mount issues but won't fix bootloader absence. Rebuilding the kernel is unnecessary unless kernel files are missing. Clearing initramps doesn't resolve bootloader problems. Question 3. When evaluating the merits of dynamic performance analysis, which method allows an administrator to trace kernel and application function calls in real time without restarting services? A. Using vmstat for CPU image sampling. B. Enabling persistent kernel debug logs. C. Using dtrace probes with on-the-fly scripts. D. Capturing ECE dump output for analysis. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Dtrace offers dynamic, non-intrusive tracing at runtime, making it ideal for pinpointing performance issues without restarts. VMTAP provides periodic metrics but no function-level detail. Persistent debug logs capture events but lack real-time customization. TCE dump focuses on network packets, not system calls or kernel behavior. Question 4. In a modern context of securing SSH on Oracle Linux, an admin must allow SETI-PERLI access for a vendor, ensuring they cannot execute shell commands. What configuration achieves this securely? A. Set permatroop version known as shdconfig. B. Configure a matcher block in shdconfig with forcer command internal AEP. C. Enable ECP wrappers to block shell sessions. D. Use iptables to restrict all ports except 22. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Using a match block with forcer command internal AEP enforce SETI early sessions for specific users or groups, preventing shell access. Disabling root login improves security but doesn't limit shell access for non-root accounts. TCP wrappers can filter hosts but not enforce SETI-PERLI. Iptables controls ports, not shell access. Question 5. Given the circumstances, Liam notices high IO wait times on an Oracle Linux database server. Analysis reveals sequential read-heavy workloads. Which disk scheduler setting is most appropriate? A. New. B. Deadline. C. EAQV. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. The deadline scheduler minimizes IO latency for sequential reads, making it optimal for database read workloads. New is suited for SSDS where scheduling is unnecessary. CRQ focuses on fair sharing, not minimizing read latency. BFQ optimizes for desktop interactivity, not high-throughput database environments. Question 6. While examining a two-node Oracle Linux cluster using Oxprey observes that simultaneous writes are causing corruption. Which misconfiguration is most likely the cause? A. Using XFS instead of Ox. B. Mounting Ox without proper cluster stack configuration. C. Using X with journaling disabled. D. Wrong SCK on active Ox mount. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. OX requires proper cluster stack and ELM distributed lock manager configuration to coordinate writes across nodes. Without it, simultaneous writes corrupt data. Using XFS or XTAR unrelated to OX-specific corruption, running SCK on active mount is risky but wouldn't cause corruption under normal writes. Question 7. In light of recent developments, Ravi is tasked with setting LVM snapshots for a critical VM to enable quick rollback before applying patches. What is the most crucial step to ensure minimal downtime? A. Stop all EO before creating the snapshot. B. Use LV create snapshot while the LV is mounted. C. Run SCK on the snapshot immediately. D. Switch to the snapshot LV before patching. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Coercing or stopping EO ensures data consistency in the snapshot, particularly for active file systems. LVM allows snapshot creation while mounted, but without EO freeze, the snapshot may have inconsistent data. Run the SCK prematurely is unnecessary. Switching to the snapshot LV is not the intended rollback method. Question 8. The primary reason for configuring multipathing in Oracle Linux storage environments is A. To increase file system capacity. B. To allow simultaneous read and write on multiple disks. C. To provide redundancy and failover between storage paths. D. To replicate storage data between servers. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Multipathing provides path redundancy and automatic failover, maintaining storage availability if one path fails. It doesn't increase capacity as capacity is determined by the storage system. Simultaneous read-write is function of RAID or striping, not multipathing. Data replication requires separate toll E. Question 9. When faced with intermittent service failures, Sophia suspects resource starvation caused by a runaway process. Which tool best allows her to set CPU and memory usage limits for the process in Oracle Linux? A. cgroups. B. Willamette. C. Nice. D. System tool restart. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. cgroups allow fine-grained resource allocation, enforcing limits on EPU, memory, and EO per process or group. Willamette sets resource limits per shell session but lacks persistent enforcement. NICE adjusts CPU priority but doesn't restrict usage. Restarting services may temporarily fix symptoms without controlling resource consumption. Question 10. The growing trend in containerized deployments requires prayer to isolate applications at the OS level on Oracle Linux. Which technology provides this capability natively? A. Oracle VM Server. B. Linux containers LSC. C. VMware SCD. Docker running on Windows. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. LSC provides SOA-level virtualization in Oracle Linux, allowing application isolation with shared kernel resources. Oracle VM Server and VMware SCD are hypervisors for full virtualization, not lightweight OA-level isolation. Docker on Windows is irrelevant to Oracle Linux deployments. Question 11. In response to a sudden kernel panic, Jack needs to capture diagnostic data for later analysis without risking further system instability. Which approach is most effective in Oracle Linux? A. Configure kdump to write memory dumps to a dedicated partition. B. Use emstat to log EPU and memory metrics. C. Enable Selinux in enforcing mode. D. Run SCK immediately on all mounted file systems. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Kdump provides a controlled crash kernel environment to capture system memory dumps for post-mortem analysis essential for diagnosing kernel panics. VMstat gives performance data but not crash details. Selinux enhances security but is unrelated to panic diagnostics. Running SCK during panic situations risks further corruption. Question 12. While examining network performance on a bonded interface, Ahmed notices inconsistent throughput despite using active backup mode. What should he check first? A. Whether MTU settings match across interfaces. B. Whether both interfaces are on the same switch. C. Whether ARP monitoring is configured for link detection. D. Whether jumbo frames are enabled system-wide. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Active backup bonding requires reliable link monitoring, often via up, to switch interfaces upon failure. Without proper up monitoring, failover detection may be delayed, causing throughput issues. MTU mismatches or switch connections may cause other network problems, but not specifically bonding failover. Jumbo frames impact performance differently. Question 13. The underlying principle of using access control lists ACLs in Oracle Linux is to a. Replace traditional Unix permissions entirely, b. Grant fine-grained permissions beyond the owner group others model, c. Automatically encrypt files at rest, d. Provide file system quotas per user. Answer. Correct answer, b. Explanation. ACLs extend standard Unix permissions, allowing specific users or groups to have tailored read-write execute rights without altering the main owner group structure. They don't replace traditional permissions but complement them. Encryption and quotas are separate mechanisms handled by other tools and file system features. Question 14. Historically speaking, what is the most reliable way to ensure that automated YUM updates from the unbreakable Linux network Elm do not break dependent services in a production environment? A. Apply updates directly to production for speed. B. Disable all updates and run on static versions. C. Test updates in a staging environment that mirrors production. D. Use only security-related updates without testing. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Testing in a staging environment allows validation of dependencies and service behavior before applying updates to production, preventing outages. Applying updates directly is risky. Disabling updates leads to security and compatibility issues. Even security updates can impact services if untested. Question 15. The effectiveness of using CRUT jails for service isolation depends primarily on a. Running services as root within the jail. B. Providing minimal necessary binaries and libraries inside the jail. C. Disabling Linux enforcement. D. Mounting all system partitions read-only. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. CRUT jails confine services to a restricted file system view, and limiting available binaries libraries reduces attack surfaces. Running as root increases risks. Disabling Linux weakens overall security. Read-only mounts improve safety but are not the defining factor in CRUT's effectiveness. Question 16. From multiple perspectives, why might an Oracle Linux administrator choose to tune kernel scheduler parameters for a database server? A. To improve user desktop responsiveness. B. To reduce kernel memory footprint. C. To optimize CPU allocation for IO-bound workloads. D. To enable GUI-based process management. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Adjusting scheduler parameters can prioritize IO-bound processes like databases, reducing latency and improving throughput. Desktop responsiveness tuning is irrelevant for a headless DB server. Reducing kernel memory is unrelated to scheduler behavior. GUI process tools don't require scheduler tuning. Question 17. To better understand the cause of repeated Linux denials, Priya wants to generate a custom policy module allowing a specific action. Which tool is designed for this? A. Audit tool. B. Auditalo. C. Sealer. D. Settable. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Auditalo reads above denial logs and generates policy rules to permit previously blocked actions, creating custom modules. Audit tool manages audit rules, but doesn't generate policy. Sealer provides human-readable explanations, not policy changes. Settable toggles predefined booleans, not custom rules. Question 18. When presented with the need for rapid OS deployment in a virtualized environment, Raj considers cloning an existing VR image instead of using Kickstart. What critical risk must he address post-cloning? A. The kernel may fail to boot on different hardware. B. Network interface MAC address conflicts may occur. C. The system may lose all file system mount points. D. Linux will automatically disable itself. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Cloning that reserves its MAC address, risking network conflicts unless changed. Kernel boot failures are rare in identical hypervisor environments. Mount points persist unless storage changes. Selinux does not disable automatically upon cloning. Question 19. Contrary to popular belief, what is a key advantage of configuring device mapper multipathing beyond redundancy? A. It balances I/O traffic across multiple paths to improve performance. B. It encrypts all storage traffic. C. It automatically creates LVM snapshots. D. It replaces file system journaling. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Multipathing can use path grouping to distribute I/O, increasing throughput in addition to failover. It doesn't encrypt traffic, create snapshots, or replace journaling, which are separate features handled by other tools and layers. Question 20. Throughout the course of a kernel live patch using ksplice, the primary operational benefit is A. A significant reduction in disk usage. B. Applying critical patches without system downtime. C. Automatic rollback to the previous kernel upon reboot. D. Elimination of the need for all kernel updates. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. ksplice applies patches to the running kernel without rebooting, maintaining uptime and service availability. Disk usage is unaffected. Rollback requires specific steps, not automatic on reboot. ksplice doesn't eliminate the need for future updates. It just changes the method of applying them. Question 21. Given the circumstances, Henry needs to isolate a critical Oracle database process to prevent it from exhausting EPU and memory resources, but wants minimal impact on other system processes. Which is the most effective method? A. Use NICE to lower the process priority. B. Apply control groups, C groups, to limit resource usage. C. Set ulimit to restrict user resource consumption. D. Kill other non-essential processes manually. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. C group to provide fine-grained control to limit CPU, memory, and I/O resources for specific processes, allowing isolation without affecting unrelated processes. NICE only adjusts CPU priority, not resource limits. Ulimit effects per user or shell sessions broadly, not individual processes flexibly. Killing processes is reactive and risky, not resource control. Question 22. When analyzing Oracle Linux boot failures, Maria observes that the system hangs before the kernel loads. Which bootloader-related issue is most likely responsible? A. Incorrect grub2 configuration file syntax. B. Corrupted initramps image. C. Misconfigured Selinux contexts on system files. D. Disk I/O scheduler misconfigured. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. grub2 reads configuration files to load the kernel. Syntax errors or wrong kernel paths cause early boot failure before the kernel runs. Initramps corruption usually manifests after kernel loads. Selinux context errors appear later in boot or runtime. Disk I/O schedulers affect performance, not early boot. Question 23. From the perspective of maintaining a secure Oracle Linux server, what is a primary benefit of implementing SSH key-based authentication instead of password authentication? A. It enables easier password recovery. B. It prevents brute force password attacks. C. It eliminates the need for firewalls. D. It automatically disables root login. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. SSH key authentication uses cryptographic keys instead of passwords, making brute force guessing infeasible. It doesn't aid password recovery or firewall function. Root login restrictions are separate SSH settings unrelated to authentication type. Question 24. While examining file system corruption after an unclean shutdown, which approach provides the safest data recovery in Oracle Linux? A. Immediately run SCK on the mounted file system. B. Mounting the file system, read write, and manually deleting bad files. C. Run the SCK from a rescue environment with the file system unmounted. D. Reinstalling the OS to overwrite the corrupted file system. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. SCK should be run only on unmounted file systems to avoid data corruption and ensure safe repair. Running it on A mounted file system risks damage. Manually deleting files is unreliable. Reinstalling without recovery loses data. Question 25. To what extent does using LVM snapshots improve backup strategies in Oracle Linux environments? A. Snapshots allow live backups with minimal disruption. B. Snapshots increase available storage space. C. Snapshots replace full backups entirely. D. Snapshots automatically encrypt backup data. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. LVM snapshots capture point-in-time consistent views of volumes, enabling live backups without system downtime. They do not increase storage. They consume it. Snapshots complement but do not replace full backups. Encryption requires separate configuration. Question 26. Considering the evidence, a network administrator notices degraded performance on a bonded interface configured with mode 4, 802.38. What is the most common cause? A. The switch does not support LAC or is misconfigured. B. IP addresses are not correctly assigned. C. Firewall rules block bonding traffic. D. MTU size mismatch on the physical interfaces. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Mode 4 bonding requires the switch to support LAC, link aggregation control protocol. Without it, bonding fails or performs poorly. IP addressing or firewall typically don't affect bonding protocol negotiation. MTU mismatches impact throughput, but less likely to cause bonding failure. Question 27. In the context of kernel live patching with ksplice, which statement best describes the requirement for applying patches? A. Patches must be applied during system reboot only. B. Kernel modules cannot be patched live. C. Patches are applied without interrupting running processes. D. All patches require disabling Linux temporarily. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. ksplice allows kernel patches to be applied live without rebooting or stopping processes, enhancing uptime. It can patch kernel modules. Linux does not need to be disabled for ksplice operation. Question 20. For the purpose of optimizing disk I/O on an Oracle Linux server hosting an Oracle database, which kernel parameter is most impactful? A. VM, swappiness. B. Dirty ratio. C. Kernel, shed latency. NSD, VM, dirty background ratio. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. VM, dirty background ratio, controls how much dirty data the system can keep before flushing it to disk, influencing I/O bursts and latency. Critical for databases, swappiness controls swap usage, not disk I/O. Dirty ratio also affects flush but is less dynamic. Scheduler latency affects CPU scheduling, not disk. Question 29. Based on the information from system logs, a sysadmin suspects that unauthorized access attempts are occurring via SSH. What is the best immediate configuration to mitigate this risk? A. Disable SSH completely. B. Configure itables to limit SSH connections per IP. C. Enable password authentication for easier auditing. D. Allow root login for quick response. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Limiting SSH connection attempts per IP via firewall rules reduces brute force attack impact. Disabling SSH is impractical for admin access. Password authentication is less secure than keys. Allowing root login increases security risks. Question 30. In what ways can advanced file system ERFS features benefit Oracle Linux administrators managing large datasets? A. ERFS supports transparent compression and snapshots. B. ERFS is the only file system supported by Oracle Linux. C. ERFS disables all journaling for performance. D. ERFS requires no maintenance or monitoring. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. ERFS offers advanced features like transparent compression, snapshots, and checksums, improving storage efficiency and data protection. Oracle Linux supports multiple file systems. ERFS is copy-on-write journaling, not disabling journaling. Maintenance and monitoring remain important.